a star in the nighttime. I'ma go hard when it's my time. Yeah, I'm hard and I'm light. You know you can't pause when the time's right. Sitting in the stars and watching you. You gotta ride the tug away.
Good evening and welcome to Chatbox with Sam. This is season 3 and tonight we have Peter Dobson. Peter is a director, writer, producer and has been in many films in the industry. Welcome Peter Dobson, how are you?
Good evening, Samantha. Nice to meet you, finally.
Finally, nice to meet you too.
Yeah.
We have a mutual friend of Gary Carrin's that Peter was in Blood Hunt with. Gary really enjoyed working with Peter and so I asked him for an interview and here he is. So
yeah, he's a great man, Gary.
Yes, and he says the same about you, Peter. So I know you've got a long career, Forrest Gump. You played Elvis on Forrest Gump with the little boy, you remember, with the braces on?
Yeah, well, that little boy, Michael Connor Humphreys, when he got older, he joined the army, the tank battalion, went to Iraq twice. And not many people know that. Yeah, he's an Iraqi war veteran.
Oh, no, really?
Yeah, no, he survived, but
thank God.
It was. We shot that back in '93, I think.
Right.
So, people just always have a vision of little Forrest Gump as the little kid, But when he grew up, he joined the army and did 2 tours in Iraq, man. You had just mentioned prior to starting this interview, Larry Hankin, and I mentioned a show to you I did called Johnny Bagel.
Right.
That Larry Hankin guest starred on one of the episodes. Bob Zemeckis and Frank Marshall, big crew of all film guys, did a 1-hour comedy. It was a little ahead of its time back in the early 90s. It was a blast to do. And it was called Johnny Bagel, and about this mob guy that was on the run, hijacked a Winnebago and went state to state, and it was a comedy. And one of the episodes we did, my character goes to South Dakota and he finds a camera. He goes out there taking pictures and everything. And he hears this shuffle in the bushes. He's like, "Whoa, what was that?" Takes a picture and takes it back to this trailer and he starts developing it. And as he gets the photo gets bigger and bigger, he notices that he first thinks it might be Bigfoot because of that famous walk, that you always see.
Yes.
And then he enlarges the picture even bigger, and it turns out that it's not Bigfoot, but it's wearing gold glasses, and turns out it's Elvis Presley living in a trailer park. and we did a spoof on that where my character Johnny Bago said, "You're in retirement. I knew you didn't die. You got to get back on stage again, man." It was like, "Oh no, man, I'm retired. I just want to hide, man."
You even sound like Elvis.
and I said, "No, man, you people love you. People love you." So my character tried to, wanted to teach him, to do his moves again and, do the Elvis stuff. Right. That was the episode. So we did 1 season of the show. It was very expensive. It was $1 million an episode, even back then.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's expensive.
The show was actually very successful, but it was too expensive to produce. Bob Zemeckis wanted to take it on the road. CBS said, "No, we know you're Bob Zemeckis, but we're not taking this thing on the road. We're going to shoot it all here in California." So Bob kind of walked away from the show. About a year later, they had called, and it was Zemeckis' casting director on the phone, and she said, "Bob's doing a movie called Forrest Gump, and hey, remember that Johnny Bagel episode where you did Elvis?" So I'm like, "Yeah." They go, "Well, how would you like to do young Elvis in the movie?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, that sounds cool, man."
Right.
So that's how that came about.
Did you actually play the guitar?
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to dispute the rumors that have always been going on about that little iconic 3-minute scene. That's me. The voice, for whatever reason, they use Kurt Russell's voice to say, "Show me that crazy thing you do with your legs, man." And then he breaks into hound dog singing, and that's me. That's my blur of a body in the background. That's Kurt talking, and then that's me singing. So the combination of the 3 of us created that role.
Oh, that's awesome.
I didn't want to start being that guy, being for hire to come up in a jumpsuit and be on a stick.
Don't forget the jewelry.
Yeah, which was kind of turning in that direction. But there was one movie some years back. We just lost the great Tom Sizemore last week, and I actually it was called Protecting the King.
Yes,
and it was written by not many people realize that David Stanley had Elvis Presley. His father got remarried when he was in Germany. Elvis wasn't very happy about that because the mother, just passed away in 1958.
Right.
And in 1959, Vernon got remarried very quickly, and Elvis was very upset. But her name was Dee Stanley. She had two sons. One of them was named David Stanley, and Elvis was very fond of the kid. He liked the novelty of having brothers.
Right.
So they basically grew up with him all through the 60s, and David in particular, him and Elvis got close, and he became part of the Memphis Mafia by 1972.
Wow.
And the movie is about that relationship through David Stanley's eyes and his big brother Elvis. Tom Sizemore plays Joe Esposito. And the movie's terrific. It's not your typical Elvis movie. It's more behind the scenes.
The scenes, yeah.
Yeah.
And you were with Brian Krause with one of them.
Yeah, Brian Krause was also, he was one of the Memphis Mafia. That's correct.
Yeah, I just met him.
It was a good cast.
I just met him at Comic-Con in Pensacon. Yeah, Pensacon, in Florida.
Yeah, he was a really good egg. We had a really, really good time.
Good time. So, and then you played with Bloodhunt. You've just played that with Gary Carian. So
yeah,
was you directing that?
That was a good friend of mine, actually, a fellow thespian named Louis Mandler, from the My Big Fat Greek films.
Yes,
he's a phenomenal talent. He's a writer, director, and they gave him a little bit of money. The first film I did for Louis was earlier in the same year. Called 3 Days in Melee, which is based on a true story in World War II in the South Pacific. And we shot that together. And then about 2 months after that wrapped, Louis called me again and said, "Look, I'm doing another movie. It's a horror film. It's also set, but it's set in World War II." And he hired Gary and Rampage Jackson. We made this very interesting. It's kind of like Predator meets the Dirty Dozen.
I saw your photos on Facebook. Yeah.
It was a great time, and like I said, me and Gary really hit it off. I never, Thailand became a very special place for me.
Right.
I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to come back to Los Angeles because there's no politics out there.
Right.
There's not a lot of money. Bangkok has a rich section, but most of it's. But the streets were
down to earth. Yeah. Down
to earth. You got it.
Right.
And like Italy, there's just food. Their food there is just so fresh and terrific.
Yeah.
It's like we were deep in the jungles out there.
Nice.
I really fell in love with all the people there.
Oh, it's like that in Ireland too. My family's Irish, so.
Oh, is that right? Oh.
Absolutely, me darling. So, yes, so I got a big Irish family. You played with Michael J. Fox in The Frighteners.
Yes, I did.
I saw that.
Another oldie but a goodie. That was Peter Jackson, a very unknown Peter Jackson. This goes back to he made a couple of cult films that were big in Europe. Meet the Feebles and some other ones. Basket Case, I think, was the other one. And his kind of American debut was a film called Heavenly Creatures, which was a little scene movie. But again, back in those days, Robert Zemeckis used to hire me a lot, and he really believed in Peter and in his film. Not many people know, but Robert Zemeckis also executive produced a TV series called Tales from the Crypt. That I also did for Bob, and Bob recommended that I meet Peter Jackson. So they set that meeting up, and that's how that came to be, to go do the Frighteners out in New Zealand.
Nice.
I'm smoking. I don't care.
You carry on smoking. That's okay.
We shot that in New Zealand, and working with Peter was like working with a kid in the sandbox. He was in everything you hear about. He was a mad genius. He was a mad genius.
Yeah.
And I remember one time we were all having lunch. I said, what are you doing next? And he actually said he was planning on making King Kong. He didn't even mention Lord of the Rings. The irony is that after we got done filming that movie, they were going to release it in Halloween, which would have been perfect for the film. But they got some, I guess, big heads at Universal and thought it'd be better in a summer release. Mm-hmm. So they released it opposite a little film called Independence Day. and the Frighteners got slaughtered at the box office.
Absolutely. Well, when you have two big films come out like that, it's, one of them's going to win.
DVD and TV and reruns, and now it's a big cult film.
Right.
Which is cool. People, it's like a Christmas movie. Every Halloween, it's like on every channel.
It comes up there every channel, yeah. And the last exit to Brooklyn, I saw your reel on your IMDb. So
we shot that in Red Hook, Brooklyn.
Right.
I personally think that's Jennifer Jason Leigh's finest performance. I think she got robbed from the Academy Awards.
Right.
The movie. Mistakenly, people thought it was going to be like Grease, and I know they had some screenings, and if you know anything about the book or the film, it's pretty much it's almost a rated X movie.
Right,
it takes place on the water docks in Brooklyn.
She almost looked like a Marilyn Monroe, didn't she, walking down the street there?
Tra-la-la, yeah, with the bleached white hair and all of that, and she was just absolutely incredible. And the film in Europe, it took off, but in America, again, it's a story of my life. I'm like Van Gogh. People discover my shit when I'm dead. that movie got discovered a few years later. Now that's a cult movie. In fact, everything I've fucking done is a cult movie.
That's okay. And now you're on Chatbox with Sam, telling us all about it.
There you go.
And when I get my studio, I'll interview in there too. How about that? You'll get a double whammy.
Cheers.
Yeah, you're welcome. Talk about Norma Jean and Marilyn. You did play in another movie like that. You played in so much movies, and you have a lot of shorts, and you've gone to the film festival, and in Toronto Film Festival.
Yes. That's kind of like Lewis. I've been fortunate, Samantha. I've worked with a lot of great directors over the years, and I think that the biggest thing I'm fortunate looking back on this long career is getting the chance to work with guys like Robert Zemeckis and Peter Jackson and Michael Mann. Mm-hmm. A little just to show you how far I go back. I'm sure you're familiar with the film Heat.
Yes, I've heard of that.
With the late, great Tom Sizemore.
Right.
And De Niro and Pacino, of course, Val Kilmer. Now, 2 years before he made Heat, it was a TV movie first called L.A. Takedown. Same story, same characters. Michael Mann knew he wanted to make the movie, but he made it into a TV movie first.
Okay.
And I played the Val Kilmer role. So it's on YouTube. It's called L.A. Takedown. It's the same exact movie. It was an NBC, just back in the days when they had TV movies. Mm-hmm. I had met Michael because I did an episode. I played a villain on Miami Vice,
right.
And he happened to be in Miami when he didn't direct it, but he happened to be there, and we met and all that. But getting back on track, I worked with all these great directors. And it was kind of like going to film school. I absorbed everything, particularly Last Exit to Brooklyn with Lily Idle. That's what really got me into filmmaking. And I've stepped behind the camera.
That's it. You went behind the camera.
And did a film called White Mule that went all around the world. It's kind of a tip of the hat to Smokey and the Bandit, The Twilight Zone.
I love that, The Twilight Zone.
And I had a really good experience making that film, and now I'm on to something a little bit bigger for a feature debut called Asbury Park.
Yes, I just saw that on your IMDb at the very top. It's in production. So, and I know you were working a couple of days ago, but I know with NDAs you can't say too much with that. So, I understand.
I can say one thing. We just I can't say the name yet, but because legally I can't. But we just got a very big actor attached right after New Year's, who just came aboard to help us with our financing.
Oh,
Let me
that's
tell you something,
awesome.
Samantha. This business is not for the weak of heart, because this film has taken me 2 lifetimes to make, but we're almost there.
That's awesome. But you know what? You didn't give up. And that's the main thing in life, and especially in this
What
industry.
else am I going to do? Wait tables?
I think it's a
Go
bit
back
late
to
for
waiting
that.
tables?
It's a bit late for that now, Peter. I mean, you might get a good tip. When my sister seen you on Facebook, she went, "Whoa, who's that?" So, if you were going to inspire the younger generation, Peter, what would you say to them?
Don't smoke, first of all.
Okay,
Don't smoke cigarettes.
Peter says, "Do not smoke the cigarettes."
Drink your milk and brush your teeth after every meal.
Oh, you're funny.
What was the question? My advice for youngsters? As the great Betty Davis once said, she did a great interview. You can see it on YouTube. It's from the Johnny Carson show. He asked the same question to Betty Davis, and he goes, "Betty, is there?" And she was probably about, I don't know, 89, 87, maybe 90, somewhere in there. And Johnny Carson says, "Is there any advice you can give to the younger generation?" And she goes, and she had a cigarette, just like me. And she goes, "Take Fountain." Fountain is a street here in LA, meaning a shortcut.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, take Fountain. That was her advice.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's great.
That's funny.
You know, all the cliches you hear are true. I mean, you got to kind of be a nut to be in this industry. It's not an easy industry. It is very much like a roller coaster ride. You can go years of working, and you can go a long time without working. It's what you do with the time that you have on your own, and that's the time to really be creative. And if you're a writer, that's a really wonderful time to, get on your computer or go old school and write down your notes and so forth.
Right.
And it's really persistence. I found the longer I've been here, it's the people that have just stayed with it, because it can be, like I said, a very, very long time without work, particularly when we just had the pandemic.
Right.
Everything is very, very impersonal now. They went to online. The casting days right now seem to be over. I hope they're coming back.
Right. Me too. Yeah.
Everything is online.
Yeah.
And there's kind of two sides to that argument. Whereas, yeah, you can pick your best take and send it to them. But what if your take on it is wrong? There's no one there to give you notes that's not the direction they want you to go in.
Right.
Then they could just click you off and go to the next actor. And I think that's a shame. I know there's a lot of talent out there.
Yeah.
Who need to, have, be in person. The casting directors need to go back into their office.
I know.
And get back to work. This pandemic crap is over. I mean,
And the self-tapes, everyone's got to do their own editing and put all that work into it, because it's a lot to edit, and they have to get someone to help them with the sides. And I helped a few friends with their side, and then so many people would audition for that one part rather than going in a casting office and there was just a few people there. There was, they had the pickings of all these people, and so much work's going into it, and it's a shame,
No, it is. And also, because everything is online, I mean, think of the thousands of people they sift through, clicking a button. Whereas back in my day, I mean, I used to have to go and do screen tests. I literally... Right. There's a couple of films. Last Exit to Brooklyn was one of them. I had to screen test with Jennifer Jason Leigh. We had to go into a studio, and I had to screen test with her.
Right.
Okay. And with the director, they're there in the room to guide you. Same as a casting director, they're there to guide you in the right direction. They want, the casting director's job is they're rooting for you to get that job. And a young actor, you're telling me. I mean, you asked me for what advice can I give them. I just kind of go beyond that, and I hope for the young actors that are aspiring to be in this business, that I sincerely hope they get the opportunity to go back in-person rooms and experience the casting director. It's there's a camera in there. It gives them a feel for what it's going to be like on set a little bit. And that's the big thing that's missing in our industry. It's not very personal, and that really needs to come back.
Right.
I think.
I agree. Absolutely. I mean, because COVID is going to stay with us, and we've all got to,
like every
like the flu, and it's, I've just got over COVID myself, so, people are surviving it. So it's okay. I'm fine now.
Yeah, you're
I'm
okay.
fine. Yeah. Besides,
you wear COVID very well.
I know. I washed it right out of my hair last night. So,
but you're right. I mean,
and my mum's Irish, right? She says, she had a COVID. She went to Spain. She came back from Spain. She goes, I'm having a Bacardi and Coke. My mum, Irish. I says, Mum, you're drinking. She goes, it's alcohol. It will kill it.
Leave it to the Irish.
I know, right?
That's great.
I says, Mama.
God bless your mom.
I know. I love her. She's awesome.
Good advice.
She goes, it will kill it. She goes, it doesn't like cigarettes either. And I'm smoking too, she said.
Oh, man.
I know, that's my
funny.
mother. Yeah. What inspired you to become an actor?
Growing up with my father and my mother, they were both divorced, but they were both in their own right cinephiles. I grew up mainly with my dad as a kid, and every Sunday he'd take me to, again, something, putting a little age on myself, to the drive-in movies. And, the first film I remember seeing as a kid, this was sometime in the 70s. It was a film called The Wild Bunch. It was made in 1969. It was a Sam Peckinpah film, which is my favorite film to this day. And I must have seen that film when I was probably 8 years old or 9 years old, and it just left this impact on me. And after I saw that, I was just fascinated with films.
Mm-hmm.
By the time I was 10, I like a lot of kids, you join your drama classes and all that, and ultimately wound up studying in New York and doing all that, and making my way out to LA.
Yeah.
But it was, I'm glad you brought that up, because another great, tool, instrument for young actors, I firmly believe this, particularly since things are impersonal. I'll tell you, there's so many great movies that they can envelop themselves in. I say if they have cable, they should have Turner Classic Movies. Educate yourself on class, with the greats like Alfred Hitchcock and Orson Welles, John Ford, Sam Peckinpah,
right.
and Raquel Welsh, right down the line. Peter Yates. I just watched Bullet the other night for the 1,000th time. But I
love the classics. I love them.
Yeah, and I think every actor should envelop and embrace the classics.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's cinema at its finest, and it's getting a little bit more scarce these days. There's still, watching big epic movies is getting harder and harder these days. I mean, look, I think that's what the great thing about Top Gun Maverick is that there was no messaging in that movie. It wasn't political. It wasn't all the. Tom Cruise is a friggin' genius. He said, "I'm going to go back to the original formula. I'm going to be patriotic. I'm going to put the '80s music back in. And I'm going to fly some jets and kick some ass." And it made $1 billion. It put asses back in the seats. And speaking of Elvis, that was the other big movie this year, was Austin Butler, who I thought did an amazing job as Elvis. Look at the business. That movie put asses in seats too.
Yeah, I think it was very
Americana, good. Elvis, Maverick. And then most recently, I saw it on a theater. It's on Netflix now. A remake of All Quiet on the Western Front, which is my favorite movie from 2022.
Oh,
it's actually a remake. It's called All Quiet on the Western Front.
Okay, I'll have to look for that. And God bless Lisa Marie that just left us.
Yes, God bless her is right.
Yeah. So
we lost a lot of. I'm telling you, man.
There's a lot of people that are
short. Yeah.
As we get older as well, we notice more.
We lost Raquel Welsh, who I actually knew, believe it or not. I knew her pretty well. A buddy of mine used to date her daughter, Tawny Welsh. So
Oh,
I would go hang out at the house with them and my buddy, who was actually my best friend back in those days, and we'd go over Raquel's house and on the weekends, and Raquel was a character. Not only, but I mean, this she was in her late 60s, maybe early 70s,
right.
uh, and she was absolutely stunning. Of course, even
Yes, beautiful.
just a natural beauty, you know.
Yes.
But she had a kind of a rep. She had her friends there. She called me Dobson. She'd be like, "Hey, Dobson." I'd be like, "What?" She goes, "Over there, go." And I'd sneak over to the corners. I go, "What?" She goes, "Give me a cigarette, would you?" So I'd go behind her pool. I'll split up a couple of marbles.
You're a
Like,
naughty boy, Peter.
so these are my stories. I was
That's
Raquel
awesome.
Welch's cigarette supplier. We would go, but she was a real hoot. And, we
Yeah,
lost her
Hoot and
this year,
Henny.
and another icon. Yeah, I mean,
They were so
but
beautiful, though. Yeah.
yeah.
I loved all the 50s as well, and I loved watching Bing Crosby and Frank Sinatra and Grace Kelly. I grew up with all them because my grandparents had a huge influence when I was growing up. So,
That's wonderful.
and all the, Charlie Chaplin and,
Yeah,
what was the other one? Lauren Hardy. I love all that
Lauren
stuff.
Hardy. Yeah,
Good.
sure. The Three
It's,
Stooges.
yeah,
I mean,
great
it's all
stuff.
there at your fingertips now. And again, you nailed it. It's you could go
Yeah.
online and watch these guys for inspiration, because every filmmaker is inspired from another filmmaker. Lawrence Scorsese or Brian De Palma, particularly, clearly inspired by Alfred Hitchcock. I mean, if you watch his, now I'm not really talking about Scarface, but if you look at Brian De Palma's earlier work, like Body Double, and films like that. And even in The Untouchables, when he did that, it's shot like an Alfred Hitchcock movie.
Right.
And Scorsese the same. Everybody's inspired by somebody,
Right.
and the only way you're going to do that is by just enveloping yourself in films. And the more you watch these great films, like Lawrence of Arabia, you can watch a great David Lean movie, or his other masterpiece, Bridge on the River Kwai, when they shot on CinemaScope with Alec Guinness and William Holden and all that. That only inspires you, and that will, I believe, will never die for any young filmmaker or actor or both. These are the films that they need to see. I'll tell you one quick story that blew my mind. Before COVID, this is again, playing my goddamn age. I'm not going to name a casting director, but I was in a room with a casting director. It's probably 2018, somewhere in there. And I was auditioning for something. And then after we were talking, and I asked her, I said, "Hey man, so it's like a bank robbery. I said, kind of like Dog Day Afternoon." And she goes, "Is that a dog kennel in Los Angeles?" I said, No. I said, "Dog Day Afternoon is a film with Al Pacino, directed by Sidney Lumet." And that's what I knew. The casting directors, they're not even watching these movies anymore, because she was like, I don't know, 26. And I'm finding out that a lot of these casting directors today, you know what an old movie to them is? Dirty Dancing or Ghost.
Oh my gosh.
Anything before that, they don't even look at some of these people. And it
I
just blows
do.
my mind.
I love the old classics.
Yeah. And so.
And you mentioned 1969. That's the year I was born.
Oh, that was a great year for films.
Right.
Midnight Cowboy.
It was a great year for birth too. I was born.
Yeah.
December. Yeah.
Created you.
Created me.
Yeah.
I came out and boom. My mom said, "What happened?" And now here I am on Chatbox with Sam. Oh, it's took me all these years. I've been very secluded. Anyway. True story. Anyway, this isn't about me. So,
You're a trip.
Thank you. I know I trip quite often. Florida, Los Angeles. If you got a charity that you could advocate for, what would that be and why?
I would say, I would say the local shelters. I don't own one, but I used to have a lot of cats. I'm an avid cat lover. Uh, so I would just say any animal shelter because
Okay.
there's so many strays here in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
To get the cats fixed and all that, because I sometimes I cry myself to sleep thinking all the cats and dogs are
Right.
put to sleep every day, and that
Right.
drives me crazy. Like as we speak, they're putting a cat down right now that's probably perfectly fine.
I know, it's horrible.
You know what I mean?
I adopted my Zeus. He's a pit bull boxer. He's 2 now, nearly 3.
Oh yeah, oh nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
It's like there's always that question: if there was a stranger on an island, you didn't know the person, and you had your dog with you, the one that you just got. There, we'll play a little game here. You understand? And then a guy comes and says, "All right, I got to kill either the stranger or your dog. You're going to be stuck with one of them on the island."
I'd knock him over the head with a hammer.
Who would you shoot? The stranger. I know you would.
I know, it's like that with John Wick, wasn't it? Keanu says, no one cared that I was killing all these people. They were just upset about the dog.
Right, exactly. Yeah. He's right.
Yeah, he's absolutely right. 100%. He was like, oh, they killed a puppy. No.
I know.
It's very true because, the helpless. You can't hurt the helpless. And if you do, there's something wrong with you upstairs. That's why.
Yeah.
So
I'm a sucker. Believe it or not, I'm a sucker for cats. I think cats are so funny.
They are.
They're so independent, and then until they need something, then they put on an act for you.
I know. How has music influenced your life?
Well, in a huge way. I mentioned we're developing a film called Asbury Park, which is about Asbury Park, New Jersey. It's not about Bruce Springsteen. I grew up there. Actually, I grew up right outside in a place called Red Bank, but on the weekends, I would go to Asbury Park, and that was a big music scene back in those days. This was back in the 70s when I was a kid, and they would have these weekend drag races and so forth. And Bruce Springsteen, who was from Freehold, New Jersey, would go into Asbury. That's why he's affiliated with Asbury Park. He wasn't from there. And it's ironic. He always, his earlier works, he was always writing about cars and motorcycles, but he didn't drive. He would hitchhike into Asbury Park because of the music scene. And in those days, a place called Convention Hall would have acts like Leonard Skinner, Led Zeppelin, right across the board, man, the Rolling Stones. Before them, it was, in the 50s with Dion and the Belmonts and right back to the jazz age of Count Basie and Duke Ellington. And that's this place called Asbury Park, New Jersey. It's very musically driven. And we explore that in this film. So writing this script, everything was a song to me. A song I would remember would inspire me. I'd turn on the computer and I'd write the scene to a song. And it's funny because I was watching this interview with Nicholas Pileggi, who was talking about Martin Scorsese, and they were writing this scene, the very famous scene where De Niro takes a cigarette and looks at Murray right before he kills him. And Nicholas Pileggi goes, and he says, well, as we're writing the scene, Scorsese goes, okay, yeah. Now he looks slowly. He takes a cigarette because he knows he's going to kill Murray. Now put cream. And Nicholas Pileggi's like, what do you mean? He goes, just put it down. So he puts cream. Cream, of course, when you watch Goodfellas, that movie is a musical masterpiece because he envisioned na-na-na-na-na-na-na as De Niro takes the cigarette. And they come in on his eyes, and he's looking at Murray because he knows he's going to whack Murray. And that's the wonderful thing about music.
Right.
So it's extremely important. I put music at Asbury Park. It is, and a film that it's very much inspired me was a film called American Graffiti. It's an older film from the early, George Lucas, one of George Lucas's first films,
right?
About the cruising scene. And the same thing went down in Asbury Park, New Jersey, in the late '60s and early '70s, called The Circuit. And I just thought it would be a fascinating backdrop to throw the music and the cars and It's very much like The Outsiders, if you remember that film. It was kind of like the last breed of greasers, guys still combing their hair back and all that. And they would do these weekend drag races and so forth. And, you're just setting everything to music. Like every great film has a great either score or soundtrack,
Well, you
the
have
Wild
to.
Bunch, Yeah, I mean, it's music is everything. It's too bad they don't make good music anymore.
I know.
Hopefully
Even
they'll come
Hans
back.
Zimmer. Hans Zimmer is awesome.
Oh, the best.
Right. I love Hans
Miami
Zimmer.
Vice. Well, remember Hans Zimmer well, there was Tangerine Dream, I think they were called, which was like, that was, if you watch Michael Mann's movies, before he got into Hans Zimmer, they were called Tangerine Dream. Then he brought in Hans Zimmer. And of course, Miami Vice, the rest is history.
Right.
By the way, Michael Mann, another director that scores his movies perfectly. Perfectly.
And you score your movies perfectly too, right, Peter?
Well, I plan to. The film I mentioned, White Mule, has a lot of great music in it. A lot of great music. You can, by the way, any for your listeners or watchers, or if anybody's watching this fucking thing, the only person probably watching is your drunk mother.
You cheeky devil!
So if your mom's listening, but it's called.
Actually, she's the only one that hasn't watched it.
Yeah, I put a lot of music in that film too. Music is the world.
If this was the last time you were ever going to speak to anyone, what would you say?
Oh boy, that would be it. Oh boy. My last word, you know what they're going to be? Oh man, this really hurts, man. I would just say, give it hell. Just give it hell.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I would say. Give it hell, man. Give it your best. We're only on this turnaround just one time.
Right.
Give it hell. Give it all you got, because you only got one shot. Life is too quick.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, that's true. This isn't an audition. This is it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And as we get older, mortality is just you're faced with it every single day. Like we were just talking about. Look at all the people that it's barely March, and we've lost, I don't know how many people in this industry and outside of the industry, of course. I mean, it's just, you're just constantly reminded. I lost my dad years ago, and I remember when he was my age, and I remember as a kid, I would say, hey, Dad, because his friends were dropping like flies.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember asking my dad, I go, how come you don't go to the funerals? He's like, what am I going to do? Bring them back from the dead? They're gone.
Oh.
And now I get his train of thought.
What's your heritage?
Well, I a little bit like you. I'm a mutt. I
Me
got some
too.
Irish, German, Irish, Scottish, and French on my mom's side. I come from a big lineage on my mother's side of the family, all West Point, going back to the 1800s. They're called the Hoyles and the DeRussies. In fact, there's a Fort DeRussi down there in Hawaii. I was very big in Pearl Harbor and all that. I've got relatives that were on both sides of the war. So it's always interesting to find your family trees, great uncles and so forth, who were, on the other side. And on my other side, they were very instrumental in D-Day, part of the 101st Airborne. So I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud of my heritage, particularly on my mom's side.
Oh, you sounded just like Elvis when you said that.
Oh, did I? What's my biggest record? And I studied with the late Senator Seacat.
I saw that on your IMDb.
Golf, there's nothing wrong with getting into a good acting class on your off time. You get a job, wait some tables, do like they say, you get your job, your part-time job, and spend your nights in acting class if you want to get into this business. It's not for the faint of heart. It's certainly not for everyone. And I don't recommend a lot of people because it's not an easy business. It's
No,
not an easy.
it's
business.
hard work.
It really isn't.
Yeah.
This isn't picking daisies, man. You gotta be fucking insane to be in this business. You really do.
I know. I believe
Which is what I am.
It's because you're a Cancer.
Exactly.
I'm only joking. No, it's very nice. So how can people find you on social media? I know you have a Facebook and you have IMDb.
Excuse me. I have a Facebook and I got an Instagram. I think I got a whopping 380 followers on Instagram.
I don't have that many on in there
I'm
either.
Not much on. Yeah, man. I'm not much on social media. You can just call me.
Just good. And his number is 555-67.
Random pictures of movie posters and all that stuff. So I'm not social media active too much. But yeah, I have a Facebook page.
Right.
I got an Instagram page as well. If you want to see some pictures of Sam Peckinpah and people like that, go to my page. Check them out.
Have you got any last words for the audience?
Give them hell.
Give them hell.
Just like my dying words. Give them hell.
Thank you very much, Peter Dobson, for joining Chatbox with Sam.
Thank you. Thank you, Samantha.
You're welcome. Thank you. Mwah.
I'm a bright star in the nighttime. I'ma go hard when it's my time. Yeah, I'm hard and I'm like, you know you can't pause.